Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Community Dissection. In this episode, we are going to dissect the Pinterest business community. So I'm really excited. This seems to be a similar community to one we recently dissected, the Upwork community for freelancers leveraging Upwork for their business. So I'm excited to compare and contrast a little bit of those two methods. And I'm delighted that the person who joined us on the Upwork episode, Lila Faria, is also back for this episode. Lila, you want to say hi and introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm Lila Faria, and oh my gosh. I also teach, and the default thing that I always say is my name is Lila Faria. My pronouns are she, her, hers. So I'll say that here, but I also run Lila Faria Dance and Lila Faria Consulting. So I work with dancers, but I also work with community enthusiasts in building communities.
Jane of all trades, backed by popular demand. And Terry Peluso. Terry is a new guest. Do you want to share and introduce yourself?
Terry Peluso, located in Santa Cruz, California. And I've been working on community related activities and strategies and all of that for the past 15 plus years, and mainly in the B2B tech space. And it's I love this idea of looking at other communities with other community people. Haven't really done that before, so I'm excited to really do this. So thank you, Bri, for putting this together.
Yeah, happy to have you. It's way more fun just to observe and judge other people's work than it is to actually build something on your own. But we've all been there. We've all done it. We have the authority to be able to judge because we know just how hard it is. So let's dive in. So I want to show everybody before, just right off the bat, the Pinterest community so you can see a little bit about what we're talking about. So this is the landing page when you come to the Pinterest business community. I'll back up and kind of talk about how I got here and the experience finding the community. But this is the landing page, lots of options up here. But as you scroll down, what became clear to me is that it's for the creators, the people who work in business, the advertisers who are using and leveraging Pinterest for their business. So that's why it reminded me of Upwork, because it's serving, clearly these platforms are the convergence of the experts and the people seeking business or expertise, and the platforms themselves are, right? It's like people posting and then people pinning posts and getting inspiration. Same with Upwork, you have people looking for freelancers and the people who are the freelancers. And it seems like a really smart strategy to go after serving the people who are providing all of the content on the platform and providing the services. So, but let me back up a little bit and give some background on the community and the company at large. So Pinterest was founded in March of 2010. It was launched as a visual discovery platform that allowed users to save and share images and videos on virtual pinboards. And initially, the company grew steadily through word of mouth recommendations and by creating features that encouraged users to share and save their interests. But by 2012, the platform had gained really significant popularity and was named one of the top 10 social networking sites. In 2013, Pinterest introduced its first advertising product, the promoted pins, and began exploring that monetization channel. The Pinterest community was launched in 2013 as a way to provide business tools and resources to help users with their Pinterest strategy. The community provided businesses with access to case studies, best practices, and other resources to help them optimize their presence on the platform. And over time, this business community has evolved to include features such as analytics and advertising tools, as well as dedicated account management, and help to grow their presence on Pinterest. So today it has over 400 million active users worldwide, and the platform continues to grow and evolve, providing businesses with a really unique opportunity. So I use Pinterest as a user, not as a business. So I can't speak necessarily to where in the onboarding flow as a business you would be prompted to join this community and have access to all of these resources, but when I searched, I think somebody commented somewhere like you should dissect the Pinterest community. And so when I searched Pinterest community, this is what came up, very, very top. So from my experience, it was really easy to find this community. It's open. I did log into my Pinterest account, which feels scary. I'm like, you all might see, I've had Pinterest for a long time. Sometimes I go back through my old boards and I'm like, this is like when we dissected the Pandora community, and it like brings up your account and you're like, oh, that's right. There was a season of life where I listened to that. So anyways, we won't focus on that, but it did log in and integrate with my Pinterest account. This community is hosted on Khoros, which we've dissected a lot of Khoros communities. So right off the bat, you know, it's going to be pretty forum and conversation centric, but I am really pleased to also see some events here. You do have to kind of like search for them, but I was able to find some. But to go back to kind of pulling it out high level, the main three things that I would ascertain you do in this community are getting help from others, so support, and most frequently through conversation and through forum style conversation, learning. So there was lots of like blog content, articles. I didn't see anything in the shape of courses or like kind of flows that you work through. It seemed pretty like one-off pieces. But then they also have, there's clearly some product here happening as well. I want to see, updates. Where did I find that? Get updates. Okay, I'll have to find where I saw that. But there's something around like, there's definitely product involved in this community. I can't find it there at the top, but discover the latest, discover ideas. Oh yeah, we'll get into that. So before I dive too much deeper, Terry and Lila, as you explored this community, what's one thing that you liked that you saw and one thing that you would change? And you can guide me to click wherever you want so I can show it.
Terry, do you want to go first or should I?
Why don't you go first, Lila?
Sure. Yeah. So I was nerding out over this community, to be quite blunt. I was looking through it, and this community seems to hit a lot of the things that are usually my pet peeves when it comes to community building, but they have done it in the way that I would have recommended doing it. And that is so rare. And I just thought it was so beautiful. Like a couple of very straightforward examples include at the very beginning of everything, there is a freaking blurb, just like a blurb that says what this community, I think you and I might be seeing a slightly different page, but on mine.
Oh, why don't you share your screen? There we go.
Yeah, totally. I saw share screen, Pinterest business, Pinterest.
Oh, interesting.
Better together, the best advice comes from people who've been there. Get tips and tricks from other brands or share your own. Instantly, it tells me who this is for and why it exists. And that never happens. No, when you walk in, it's like, what is this? Like, why does this exist? What is happening here? And something I loved about this was that there was immediately a blurb that said, oh, this is why we exist. It's right here. And you can get involved right now. Like, here is a way that you can do that. So that was number one for me. Number two is, even in addition to this, when you keep going, it talks about specifically the people that they're attracting, which I loved. So instantly, you know why this exists, who it's for, so that you know if it's for you. These are ways to get involved, which I also liked, but something else I loved was, where is it? I'm not seeing it.
Yeah,
Events here, but there's also, I'm trying to find it. There's like a welcome guide. A freaking welcome guide, and I found it underneath, I think it was each of the creator pages. There was somewhere on here that was very straightforward that is now no longer straightforward for me for some reason. But
all the way at the top under if you click get started, that takes you to a whole like onboarding forum, and one of the first the community welcome guide.
Nice. Yes.
Yeah.
This, although there's a conduct and a welcome guide. So now I'm actually feeling a little bit more lost. But at the time when I first saw this, I was like, oh, this is so straightforward. This literally tells us what to do. And not only does it tell us what to do, I'm just going to keep nerding out for a moment, but it tells us what to do in sets of 3. And as a prior educator, that is always the standard that I tend to recommend, is that 3 is the magic number, because usually anything more than that, we start to forget what that thing is, and anything less, it's not enough options. So I really love that there's a section that says, I'm new to the community, where do I start? And they give you 3 specific things that you can do immediately. You can read stuff if you really want to be passive. You can understand better how to be a great member, and you can directly get involved. You can like enter into it right now and add an introduction. And to me, that just enables members to immediately like hit the ground running, become part of this, get that momentum going in a way that is so clear and so straightforward that I wish that everyone just had this level of straightforwardness at the very beginning. So that is
And
nerding out. Yeah.
yeah, I'll just add to that. I love too, right below it, just my eye just really super quickly was like, oh, who's this for? Creators, advertisers, merchants, developers. I love that they are like identity based and not interest based, like really, really subtle shift there. But if you were like, the opposite would be like advertising. I don't know like the version of that for all of those terms, but listing it not as an interest, but like, if this is who you are, this is how you identify, like this is how you will engage in the space. And I think it's so helpful and clear cut for my brain.
Yes, absolutely. I love that about it. I love that it feels very straightforward. It feels very clear. It feels like you know exactly who this is for and who it's not for, which is so important. Like clearly it shows, at least to me, I feel like I'm seeing that the Pinterest team has done a lot of work thinking about the back end part of this, thinking about what the member journey might look like, thinking about who this is for and why it exists. Just a lot of those fundamentals I see you often get pushed, like swept under the rug and sort of told to be forgotten about to prioritize other things. And I love that it seems like they took time to really think through why it is that this exists, because that then shows through to the people. Like I feel like this is
Yeah.
delving into like even down here's another set of 3, right? Like to me, that makes me so happy. What were you gonna say, Bri?
Oh, no. I was just going to reiterate, like if for community people watching this might be like, well, duh, like an onboarding sequence, like doesn't everybody do that? But I can tell you after dissecting like dozens of communities, like half of them huge brands, like I'm like, you have a community department, and there's nowhere in this community that tells me like what to do, how to get started. Like they just throw you in the deep end. And this is also something I noted, Lila, like there were just several places where onboarding to the community was like listed and linked to, that made it like super obvious and super, again, like we're nerdy community people, so we like love seeing this, and we're gonna like read your code of conduct, but like the majority of your members are not, but you still have to have it, because for the ones who like are not going to engage in your community until they can assess and understand the behaviors that are welcome there, you have to provide some guidance.
Yeah, absolutely. And that even plays into some of the stuff that I noted that like could be improved or worked on. Like I have some thoughts on exactly that. But before we get into that, I want to hear about like Terry's thoughts on positive things and how everyone is feeling about the positive of this. And then I can get into the nitty-gritty of that too.
Okay, so the positives, it's funny that what you guys are kind of diving into, I also see some negatives, so I'll put that aside. But initially though, I think I like the site. I mean, it's pretty, and when I say that, I mean it's welcoming. It's I feel like, oh, this is when I think of Pinterest and I think of what's going on there, this is very cool. Like it really does show that I'm kind of in the right place. I actually think there's a lot of good things in there. I like their navigation above too. I think that maybe it's because I'm used to creating this kind of navigation, but it actually makes sense to me. I'm sure that there's it's the kind of thing where, how long has this community around? Like 8 years, 10 years?
Yeah, 2013, so almost 10 years.
10 years. So I feel like it's a good example of a mature community. I like how they have like, just better together, and got very nice words around what I think Pinterest really also stands for. So it's very nice with the brand, I guess,
Mhm.
is the point
Mhm.
too. Yeah, and then as I clicked around, I scrolled down, etc. So it's funny. I did not. Can I go into what
Yeah.
and I hate to be like that,
Yeah.
like what I don't necessarily like, because I feel like
No, go for it.
there's a lot of strong things, that you pointed out. I do think it could be more straightforward, even though it is very deliberate in terms of their calls to action, and I do like their top navigation. I think as you scroll down, so I can start a conversation, I can join a conversation, what else can I do? I can connect with other businesses. I can, like, it's for me, it was very overwhelming, but then I'm not the target either.
Mm.
So I might not be understanding or have a specific task I'm trying to do, or need that I can really articulate. But I mean, it has everything, and it has like, it has everything. I just think for me, because I'm not a Pinterest advertiser, business owner, or whatever else is here, I was just a little confused. So I was just looking for, what's the straight path? Like,
Mm.
if I was to come here and I had an idea about starting a business through Pinterest, where would I go? Like, where would I start? So I was a little like not clear on what's my 1, 2, 3, and maybe this isn't the place for that. Maybe that's not the place for that either.
That's a
So
great, that's a
Yeah.
really great call out. Like there's a whole category of people who are new to Pinterest as
Yeah.
the business strategy.
Yeah.
And so they might not identify as like an expert advertiser or creator,
I
but
mean, what if can you be all three? I mean, can you be a creator and an advertiser? And what's the difference between a merchant and a like, I don't know, like how to identify. And it seems like obviously they're going off of some information they have. So, but and I'm sure there's a place where you can just ask like really newbie questions. But where do I go?
yes. That's a great call out, because there's the onboarding experience to the community, but there's not, as a new business like creator, someone who's using Pinterest for the first time for my business.
Right.
There's not an onboarding process for that learning experience.
And that's a big deal to me, because a lot of the benefits of having the community like this, while robust as this appears and it seems, it also, is like not very welcoming in that way.
Yeah.
So, and then, best practices in creating a post on the PBC, I guess that's this community. When you start to like see these little acronyms and things like that, it's a sign for me that like, ooh, maybe I'm in over my head.
Yeah, maybe at the beginning, what I could even imagine is this to me still feels very strong, but instead of starting a conversation, there could be something like learning more about it, or just something
like, pick your path. I almost think they have too much on this homepage, honestly. I just do. I think that there should be and if you've already know this community, then you know where you're going to go. But if you're not familiar, so again, it goes back to, what about the newbie who's just coming here for the first time and wanting to know, what is it like to be actually.
It reminds me, a really great example of what you're talking about, Terry, is the Pathfinder community, which is all about automations anywhere. And they have like a really phenomenal, like, there's like identify your journey, and there's like 3 different types of journeys. And then there is like, well, and now where are you at in that journey? So you have identified, here's what a creator is. Like, we're going to help you figure out which path is yours and then where you are at in that path. And for mature communities like this, when you hit a decade, you need that. You open people up to the absolute wilderness without a
exactly.
So you need to help them find like, where am I and where am I trying to go? And how is this community going to help me get there?
Like, where's a little blue, maybe you even have like a little blueprint of like, what does it mean to have a business in Pinterest? And just like that, just something that's visual and like, oh, okay, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm interested. I don't know, just something a little more helpful that way.
Yeah. That's a really good segue into actually the things that I was going to bring up as things to work on sound very similar to that. Some of my background is in like museum curation and museum exhibit design, and something I used to see in the museum world was a similar focus on text-based education. I think that it's very easy for a lot of institutions to go into text-based education because it's cheaper than a lot of alternatives. It's easy. We all know how to do it, or many of us know how to do it. But it does feel like this could be a really excellent opportunity to do that same separating and that same information giving that you're talking about, Terry, but in a different format, something that's not text-based. It could be infographics. It could be, I loved, Bri, what you said about like some sort of quiz to see which one you fall under, or something interactive, or even a video that just says, you know, like goes over it, like adding in different ways to bring in this information can be really helpful here, especially so that we don't walk into the welcome guide and feel overwhelmed by text.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I saw the welcome guide first. I mean, before I saw the welcome guide, I was scrolling through. And I was like, I don't know what these terms really mean. Like, and maybe I should, but again, I'm not really the target.
Well, what's interesting though too is that they do have so I want to show, so right now you're seeing Lila's screen, which is not logged into the community. I am logged into the community. I'm going to show you my screen.
Oh yeah, let's see that.
And my screen looks different. And so there I have a couple, this is the thing I would change if I had to narrow it down to one thing. First of all, when Lila looked at her page, the call to action is start a conversation, which I get getting people activated, but community behavior is so, it's like someone enters an auditorium and you're like, come on stage. And you're like, wait,
yeah.
You're like, I'm literally just trying to like feel this out. Why are you calling me out like that? Like, it's just too much. And we as humans, we look to the behavior of others to understand, like, how do I behave in this environment and in this community? So without giving anyone context and just saying like, go ahead, start talking. It's like, oh my God, no, like, I don't, it's just so intimidating.
It's almost like the button should say, get comfortable here, stay a while. And like,
yes, like get to know the community, or like see some of our like most popular posts, or like see the, like, I don't know, there's other options that I think I get, like wanting to just have a really clear call to action, but I think there's other options available to them that would help usher in the community experience a little bit better. And then once you are in and you have this awesome feature where you change what this says, I don't like this at all. And so here's why, because they have this, Lila, I liked on yours, but showed the like activity for the community at large. But on mine, it shows me my activity. And the number of people, oh, sorry, Terry, what were you saying?
Like, you're a big zero.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, literally. So you're a loser. Better get started. So like, and it's also like the number of people who are going to have like impressive stats and also feel like, oh yeah, like when I keep like leveling up in this community, it's the very minority of your community. Yeah. So I think there's other compelling, it's such prime real estate. This is like the very first experience. in the community. And if there was like maybe for like your top 100 to like 1,000 people in the community who have impressive stats, maybe have this little leaderboard. But I just think there's so many more like helpful call to actions and information that you can be providing here to help get me on the right path.
Maybe there's something I go back to sometimes, maybe there's some insight that they have about incentivizing, and this is that gamification kind of thinking. Oh, look at my scores are not good, I should get started. I don't think that is a very positive place to come from, but it maybe that's the only thing I could think of is that's what their thinking is.
I think my theory on it is that I think Khoros offers gamification as like a big and touts it as a big like benefit. And I think it is nice to like see the reward and like something like physically happen on your profile the more you take action. But I think this is like pure conjecture, but I think that Khoros probably pushes it more as this like, this is how you're going to get people to engage in your community. And it's like, that's actually not where the real value is coming from. No one is going to join your Pinterest business community because they want to earn badges. They're joining because they want to learn how to make more money for their business. So let's focus on that. But we can get, I'm a fan of gamification, don't get me wrong, but we put the cart before the horse sometimes. And it's like, it's nice. It's not why we're here.
Right. In fact, it can be a deterrent if you just do it this way.
In education, that was actually one of my biggest pet peeves is I think of gamification as like level 2 design often, where in the metaphor, level 1 design is, you look at a chair and you want it to be pink. And level 2 design is you look at a chair and you want it to be like upside down, hanging from the ceiling, made out of goldfish. But then level 3 design is you look at a chair and you think, what is the purpose of that chair and how can we fulfill that purpose? And to me, often gamification falls under level 2 design. Even though it wants to get to level 3 design, it'll be like, how can we incentivize people to do the thing that we think is what they want, rather than how can we actually change the way that we're giving this information or whatever it is, so that people are actually getting to what they want faster. It sounds like the badges are like an on top of everything sort of.
Yeah, to me, they're like, I'd rather give them cool, like fun avatars that they can use. I don't know, something else that's fun versus competitive.
Right. And in general, I think my like philosophy and kind of strategy with habit formation, because gamification is like, it's the reward part of the 3 parts of habit formation, right? As a community builder, I've been trained by people who are much smarter than me to focus less on the reward and more on the prompt and the trigger for the action. So it's less important that like, when I hit 100 posts, I get a car. And it's more important that you guide me, which don't get me wrong, that's great, but you're going to be like handing out a lot of cars and not getting like all of the action you want to see. So that's a whole other tangent. I want to just move really briefly into a couple of things that I saw here. So one, events. So I do see there's one event coming up. I would love to see this more central from the get-go landing page. It's super conversation centric, text-based, like you said, Lila. And I think there's just like no reason it can't be more diversified in the types of experiences you're facilitating in your community. So I did have to kind of like, I had to dig a little bit, but I found them. There's one coming up. I'm like curious about like meetups. That's another thing we could explore. But the other thing, oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, is the event in San Francisco or is it remote? Like something I just saw San Francisco on it. It says webinar. Okay, never mind. Ignore me. Keep going.
Oh yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, I was like, I don't know. Let's look it. But you're right. It says webinar. Okay, the thing I'm going to talk about what I like about this and what I strongly do not like about this. I love the strategy for leadership development here. Like they're clearly segmenting people into like an upper echelon of activity and members. They're like figuring out ways so they create these cohorts of Pinterest pioneers. I get the alliteration, but what I don't like is the name. Like, let's just it's not worth it. Like if let's just avoid the word pioneer and choose something that's a little bit more inclusive. But I really love just the general sense of like bringing people in to leadership and having them apply for this position, and how I think what happens is like they're spotlighted. So there's an application form. I love this. They're like, if you see this and you're interested, apply here. So they get a special badge and then are active in support and questions boards if you have a question. So just another like small layer of like moderation and leadership within the community that's often missing, that I liked to see. And then there was one other thing I loved. They said you can submit your success story to the community to be spotlighted. And I think on the main landing page, it was one of the touts that was like kind of like scrolling by. But I think this is a great perk for community members, and it gives Pinterest such great content to be able to share. I think this is like a program that every community should have in some way, shape, or form.
Agreed.
Awesome. What other thoughts do you all have? We've got a couple more minutes. Anything we didn't cover that you want to be sure to dive into?
I like sort of
Oh,
what were you, Terry?
Sorry.
You want to go?
It was just one thing. So and I don't know if this happened to you, Lila,
Yeah.
but I was on the site and I must have clicked around a little bit, and then I get that, that request for a feedback.
Yeah.
I really hate that. I'm like, tell us what you think. I'm like, I don't know what to. Do you really want me to tell you what I think right now? Because I'm confused, or this or that. I don't know. That's a peeve of mine.
Yeah.
You can just link them to our community dissection episode and say, this is what we think.
Exactly. That's okay.
And then my other piece of feedback was connecting to what I was saying about like alternative forms of experiences, like alternatives to text. Not only did I feel like we can have more videos, more quizzes, but I was surprised by how little the interactions seem to be connected to the like to Pinterest as a platform, right? Like to me, something that I was surprised to see was a lack of creating collaborative boards with other people, or like having the post be directly connected to a board, things that like Pinterest is known for. I didn't feel like I was seeing that connected to the experience of the community. And that was just kind of surprising to me. And I felt like it was something that they can work on and maybe work with, especially if they have a developer community. Like I'd be especially curious if the developer, I didn't get a chance to look really far into that, but I'd be curious if that's something they're trying to do with the developer community, is maybe make changes so that the platform itself can be integrated more with community engagement. But Pinterest as a platform is so well known, is so well done in a lot of ways for what it does. And it feels like that could be a really interesting place for collaboration, or like tool that we could be using in this community.
So is it more, Lila, than just that, like to your point, the platform itself of Pinterest could have more of a connected experience with their own community, and like with this kind of a community? Or
I was thinking like almost the opposite, where the community can have more, but also that, like all of it is true. I could see it being designed in a way that is more community based, but also Pinterest is so solid that I could just see the community as being something that is more involved. Like maybe we could use Pinterest for things. Maybe instead of a forum, we had a Pinterest board, like something like that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and that is such a good call out, because it is such a visual tool. That's what they do. But then to come into the community and be like, here's lists upon lists upon lists of forum discussions. You're like, wait, it's like, but that's like not your whole thing is like really beautiful, compelling, like touts and like ways that people can like find information in a way that's visually compelling. It doesn't totally flow.
For all we know, they could be moving off of Khoros and onto something that is more visual. They could be.
Fingers crossed.
Who knows? I mean, maybe it's interesting. I go back to Bri. We talked about like looking at other communities, just beware, because the community you see today could be different in a month or two. There could be all kinds of things happening in the background that when you go back, it's like a different experience and it's way better.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is a great segue to the next thing I like to say on these episodes, which is if and when the Pinterest business community watches this episode, we hope that you take this episode with the spirit of curiosity and generosity that is intended. We know that there are so many things behind the scenes that we don't get to see. And so we hope you take our playful touch of kind of teasing out some of the things we saw, and know that we are also community builders. So we know just how hard it is, not only internally on a team to get everyone aligned on a strategy, but also in execution and managing a community is a huge job. So kudos to you guys. And thank you so much for moving things forward and for probably being one of the very first community, I'll call them trailblazers in this space. Having a community for 10 years is no small feat. So thank you for your work, and excited to see where this community goes in the future. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Lila. Thanks, Terry. And we will see you all in our next episode. Bye.